My child, you passed my final and hardest test. Now watch what heaven is about to unlock for you. You thought I was silent, but I was watching your strength rise. You thought I had turned away, but I was closer than your next breath. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every season that felt like loss, none of it was wasted. I saw you when no one else did. I saw how you chose to love when you could have grown bitter, how you chose to believe when everything seemed impossible. You did not fail, you endured. You did not break, you became stronger. You passed. You didn't know it then, but heaven was watching the entire time. Every moment of confusion, every storm, every delay was a divine examination, not to expose your weakness, but to reveal your faith. You wondered why I was silent. You wondered why the answers didn't come. But my silence was not absence. It was proof that I trusted you with the test. I already knew the outcome. I already knew you would rise again. You were being prepared, refined, molded, and purified for what comes next. You were walking through fire, but I never let the flames consume you. I was shaping you into gold. I watched as you cried in secret, trying to understand why everything seemed to be falling apart. I saw the moments you wanted to give up, when your strength was gone and your prayers felt empty. I heard the questions you were too afraid to say out loud. God, are you still with me? You still see me? And I whispered into your weary heart, yes, my child, I see you. I'm still here. Keep walking. Even when you couldn't feel me, you kept moving forward. Even when you didn't understand, you held on. Even when faith felt like nothing more than a thread, you refused to let go of it. That is what heaven calls victory. That is what it means to pass the hardest test. The world saw only your struggle, but I saw your worship in the middle of the storm. I saw you lift your eyes when everything around you was collapsing. I saw you choose forgiveness over revenge. I saw you walk away from what would have destroyed you, even when your heart was breaking. I saw you love people who hurt you, serve people who forgot you, and keep believing when the evidence said otherwise. You passed because you trusted me more than your emotions. You passed because you chose me over comfort, over pride, over fear. There were moments you thought you were losing everything, but what you didn't realize is that I was protecting you from things that would have destroyed your future. Every door that closed, every delay, every disappointment was part of your preparation. I wasn't rejecting you. I was redirecting you. I wasn't breaking you down. I was building you up. I had to empty your hands of what couldn't stay so that I could fill them with what's coming next. You didn't fail. You graduated. You advanced into a new level of faith that not everyone reaches, because few are willing to stay in the test long enough to be transformed by it. What you did, my child, heaven applauds you. Angels rejoiced every time you stood back up after falling. They watched in awe as you praised me with tears running down your face, as you whispered, I still trust you, when you had no reason left to hope. You have no idea how proud heaven is of you right now. You think your prayers disappeared into the air, but they rose before my throne like incense. Every cry was recorded. Every act of obedience was seen. Every time you chose me in secret, it echoed in eternity. You see, I never needed perfection from you. I only needed perseverance. And that's what you gave me. You stayed. You held on. You believed. That's why I can now say with joy and finality, you passed. The final and hardest test is complete. The fire has done its work, and what remains is pure. I let you walk through valleys so that you could learn how to stand on mountains. I let you feel the pain of isolation so that you would know how to hear my voice above the noise. I let you experience the silence so that you would know how to discern my whisper. Everything had purpose. Nothing was wasted. Now, my beloved, heaven is moving on your behalf. The same angels who watched you struggle are now preparing blessings with your name written on them. The same heaven that once tested you is now ready to reward you. The delay is breaking. The door is opening. The season of pruning is giving birth to the season of promise. You passed the hardest test, and the sound of breakthrough is already echoing across eternity. You're about to see things shift quickly. Where there was loss, there will be restoration. Where there was delay, there will be acceleration. Where there was silence, there will be songs of joy. Heaven is unlocking what your tears purchased. You sowed in faith, and now you will reap in abundance. I am turning the pages of your story, and this new chapter will not be written in pain, but in promise. Come and thank you for being so close. Lord, if He's been your constant companion. You asked me why it took so long. You asked me why I waited. I waited because I needed your heart ready to receive without pride, to walk in blessing without forgetting the giver. I waited because I loved you too much to let success arrive before you were rooted in surrender. You passed because you learned to trust me, not what I gave you. And now that your faith has been proven, I can safely release what heaven has been holding. To watch closely, my child. Watch what I'm about to unlock for you. Watch the doors swing open that no man can shut. Watch the restoration unfold in ways you could not have imagined. You will see relationships healed, resources flow, opportunities appear, and peace settle where chaos used to live. But above all, you will feel my presence stronger than ever. This next season is not just about what I give you, it's about who you have become. You are not the same person who entered the test. You are stronger. You are wise. You are ready. You passed, my beloved. Heaven saw, heaven wept with you, and now heaven celebrates you. The hardest test is behind you, and the greatest chapter is ahead. Stand still, lift your eyes, and watch me move. Everything that was lost will return with increase. Everything that broke you will now bless you. And everything that tested you will now testify for you. You passed. And now, heaven unlocks the reward. My child, you didn't even realize what I was doing, did you? Well, you cried over what was lost, and it was shaping what was eternal. You thought everything was falling apart, but I was rearranging the pieces to build something that would last forever. You thought I was taking from you, but I was only removing what could not follow you into the next season. You saw emptiness, but I saw foundation. You saw loss, but I saw preparation. You saw endings, but I saw beginnings that your eyes couldn't yet understand. The season you called wilderness, I called refinement. The silence you called abandonment was actually the sound of heaven working behind the curtain. You were never alone, even when it felt like the world forgot your name. I was watching every step, every tear, every moment of surrender. You asked me to use you, and I answered that prayer not by giving you comfort, but by giving you character. You asked me to bless you, and I said yes, but first, I needed to build you into someone who could hold the blessing without losing me. My beloved, there were days when you walked through the valley wondering if you had done something wrong. You searched your heart trying to find the reason for the pain, but you didn't understand that the pain was not punishment, it was purification. You weren't being judged, you were being chosen. I was setting you apart, stripping away everything that would have weakened what I was building. I had to remove certain freedom, certain habits, certain comfort. Not because they were evil, but because they were too small for where I was taking you. You prayed for increase, but before I could give you more, I had to make sure your hands could carry it. I know the nights when you asked, God, why did you let this happen? Why did you take them away? Why didn't you stop it? I heard the pain in every word. I saw the confusion in your heart. But what you didn't know is that I never allowed anything to leave your life unless it was meant to make room for something greater. I allowed certain doors to close because if they had stayed open, they would have drained your strength. I allowed relationships to end because they were rooted in dependency, not destiny. I allowed plans to fail because they would have pulled you out of alignment with my will. Every delay was divine protection, even when you couldn't see it. You see, my child, there are things I can only teach you in isolation. There are lessons that cannot be learned in abundance. In the wilderness, you learn who I am not as a distant God, but as your provider, your peace, your defender, your everything. When there was no one else to turn to, you finally turned fully to me. When no one else understood you, you found comfort in my presence. When the silence grew heavy, you discovered that my voice can be heard even in whispers. You thought I was hiding from you, but in truth, I was drawing you deeper. Every wilderness is a classroom of faith. You learn to walk by trust, not by sight. You learn to pray not because you wanted something, but because you needed me. You learn to love even when love wasn't returned. You learn to forgive when bitterness seemed easier. You learn that peace doesn't come from circumstances, it comes from me. You learn that you don't need a perfect life to have a powerful relationship with me. And while you were learning all this, heaven was watching and smiling because every small act of faith was building something eternal inside you. I know how tired you were, how heavy the journey felt. There were days when your faith felt too small, when you questioned if you could make it through one more night. But I want you to know this: every moment of that struggle mattered. Every tear you cried watered the seeds of your future. Every time you refused to quit, you built spiritual muscle that will carry you into destiny. You thought you were just surviving, but you were growing stronger than you realized. I was training your spirit for the battles ahead, not to hurt you, but to ensure your victory. You called it loss, but I called it pruning. Do you know what pruning does? It looks painful. It looks like reduction, but it's actually preparation for abundance. When a gardener prunes a vine, he doesn't hate it, he loves it too much to let it grow wild. He removes the branches that bear no fruit so that the ones that remain can bear more. This is what I was doing with you. I wasn't cutting you down, I was cutting away what hindered your growth. I wasn't taking life from you. I was making room for new life to bloom. Please support our channel. Our mission is to fill your life with joy, peace, and devotion to God. If you feel blessed by our work, you can show your love by donating through Super Thanks. Every gesture of support means a lot to us. Some of the people I removed from your life were never meant to stay. Some of the opportunities you lost would have trapped you in places I was calling you to leave. Some of the dreams that died were not failures, they were seeds that had to fall to the ground so new dreams could rise from their ashes. Every no from me was leading you to a greater yes. Every door that closed was pushing you toward the door that leads to purpose. Every delay was an act of mercy in disguise. I know that in your loneliness, you felt forgotten. You wondered why others seemed to move forward while you stood still. You compared your path to theirs and asked me why your blessing was taking so long. But I never measure time the way you do. My timing is perfect because I see what you cannot. If I had given you what you wanted when you wanted it, it would have destroyed you. The waiting protected you. The silence preserved you. The hidden season prepared you for visibility. I needed to make sure your identity was rooted in me before I gave you what you prayed for. Because blessings built on insecurity collapse under pressure. I needed to make sure you understood that your worth isn't in what you have, but in who you are to me. You are my child, not because of your achievements, but because of my grace. You are loved not because of what you do, but because of who I am. You had to walk through the valley to learn that truth. Do you remember when everything started falling apart, and you prayed for me to fix it immediately? You begged me to restore what was slipping away, and when I didn't, you thought I had abandoned you. But I was doing something deeper. I wasn't fixing what was broken, I was rebuilding what was eternal. I let some things crumble so that your foundation could be me alone. I needed you to know that even if everything else falls apart, you will stand because you are rooted in me. You didn't fail in that season, you found me there. You didn't lose yourself, you discovered who you truly are. The things you thought were taken from you were actually given back in a new form. Wisdom, discernment, strength, peace. You didn't see it then, but I was answering prayers you didn't even know how to pray. You asked me to make you stronger, so I gave you struggle. You asked me to make you wiser, so I allowed confusion that drove you to seek me. You asked me to make you loving, so I allowed pain that softened your heart. I answered every prayer, not the way you expected, but in the way that would last forever. My child, you were not being punished, you were being purified. I was burning away the parts of you that couldn't carry my glory. I was removing fear so that faith could grow. I was removing pride so that humility could shine. I was removing the illusion of control so that you would learn to rest in me. The fire you felt was not consuming you. It was refining you. The silence you hated was not empty. It was full of my presence. The waiting you despised was not delay. It was development. Now that season is ending. The wilderness has done its work. You are not the same person who entered it. Your spirit is stronger. Your faith is deeper. Your vision is clearer. You have learned to walk by faith, to love without condition, to forgive quickly, to trust me completely. You have learned that I am enough, and that is the greatest lesson of all. And now, my beloved, what once looked like loss will soon reveal itself as gain. The isolation prepared you for influence. The pain prepared you for purpose. The breaking prepared you for blessing. You passed through the fire, and now you shine with a light that darkness cannot extinguish. The test revealed your strength, but the hidden season revealed your heart. And that heart, purified and surrendered, is what I will use to unlock what comes next. The hidden season is over. What was unseen is about to be revealed. What was private preparation is about to become public manifestation. Heaven is moving, the winds are shifting, and the same God who refined you is now about to reward you. You were never forgotten. You were being fashioned. You were never abandoned. You were being anointed. You were never delayed. You were being developed. And now, my child, the time has come to step into what was waiting for you all along. You passed the test. You endured the fire. And now heaven will show you what all of it was for. My child, you obeyed when no one else understood. You stayed when it hurt. You trusted when you couldn't see me, and that is why heaven now calls you faithful. There were times when obedience felt like breaking, when every part of you wanted to turn back, when the path I asked you to walk made no sense. You wondered, why would God lead me here only to make me lose so much? But what you didn't realize then was that your obedience was the seed of everything that is about to bloom. Every time you said yes to me in private, heaven recorded it as victory. Every act of obedience you thought went unnoticed has been echoing through eternity. You didn't obey because it was easy, you obeyed because you loved me. That is the obedience that moves heaven. You chose faithfulness over convenience, humility over pride, forgiveness over revenge. You stayed when others walked away, and you kept believing even when I was silent. That kind of obedience is rare, my child. It's the kind that proves what words alone cannot. It's the kind that reveals your heart is truly mine. I know you didn't always feel strong. I know there were moments you wanted to walk away, moments you said, Lord, I can't keep doing this. But even then, you did not give up. You stayed. And because you stayed, heaven is about to move. Do you remember the times I told you to let go of what you love the most? How painful that obedience was. You didn't understand why I would ask you to release something that seemed good, something you had prayed for. But that was the test not of your strength but of your surrender. I wasn't trying to take something from you. I was trying to prove that I could trust you with more. You cannot receive the greater until you release the lesser. And you obeyed. Even through your tears, even when your heart broke, even when you couldn't see what would come next, you still said, yes, Lord. That yes changed everything. You didn't see it, but every time you obeyed me, darkness lost a little more ground around you. Every time you forgave someone who wounded you, chains fell off that were binding your destiny. Every time you chose to stay pure in a world that celebrated compromise, light pierced through the shadows. Every act of obedience, big or small, has been shaping eternity. You have no idea how many lives will be touched because you chose to follow me instead of following comfort. You thought your obedience was insignificant, but it shifted the unseen realm. I saw you when you chose to love the people who betrayed you. I watched you forgive them even when they never said sorry. That forgiveness was holy. It wasn't weakness, it was warfare. The enemy wanted you to hate them so he could poison your heart, but you refused. You didn't let bitterness win. You said, Father, I release them, and heaven erupted with joy. Angels rejoiced because they knew you had just won a battle greater than any earthly victory. You didn't just forgive a person, you defeated darkness. And I saw you when you chose humility over revenge. I saw you when you walked away from arguments you could have won. I saw you when you stayed silent when you could have defended yourself. You thought no one noticed, but heaven noticed. Every time you chose peace over pride, you looked like me. Every time you chose to trust me instead of proving yourself, you showed the world what true strength is. My child, that's what I was after, not your performance, but your posture. You learned to bow when you could have stood tall. You learned to love when you could have hated. That is why heaven calls you faithful. Write your mercy, never let me go if his kindness held you up. Obedience through pain is the highest form of worship. Anyone can praise me when life is easy, but only the faithful can praise me when their heart is breaking. You did that. You praised through pain. You worshiped through tears. You lifted your hands when all you had were questions. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of obedience opens heaven's storehouses. You may not have seen the reward yet, but I promise you, I have seen every act of surrender. I have written every yes beside your name in the book of remembrance. Nothing you've done for me in faith will ever be forgotten. You obeyed when I told you to walk away from certain people, even though it left you lonely. You obeyed when I told you to trust me with your finances, even when it made no logical sense. You obeyed when I asked you to serve others quietly, without applause or recognition. And though no one else clapped for you, all of heaven stood and applauded. I have seen you give when you had little, love when you were empty, serve when you were tired. That's the kind of obedience that makes the enemy tremble. He knows that a heart fully surrendered to me cannot be stopped. There were moments you misunderstood me. Moments you thought I had led you into failure. You said, "Lord, I obeyed, and it still hurts. I did everything right, and I still lost." But you didn't lose, my beloved. You gained something far more valuable: spiritual authority. You gained the power that only comes from trusting me when you don't understand me. You gained maturity, resilience, and peace that the world cannot give. You learned to say, "Even if you slay me, yet will I trust you." And that kind of faith cannot be shaken. Every time you obeyed me in private, you made a declaration in the spiritual realm. I trust God more than I trust myself. The declaration carrying weight. It silenced the accuser. It positioned you for the blessings that are now on their way. You understand. Your obedience built an altar, and now heaven is responding with fire. The things you've been waiting for, praying for, believing for, they are beginning to unlock because your obedience has proven your readiness. I will not withhold from you what your faith has made room for. You have been tested in silence. There were seasons when I gave no answers, when my voice seemed distant. That silence wasn't rejection, it was trust. I was watching to see if you would obey even when I did explain. I wanted to know if your yes depended on understanding, or if it flowed from love. And now I can say with joy, your love for me is real. You have obeyed not for blessings, not for recognition, but because your heart belongs to me. That is the obedience that heaven honors. My child, I saw the nights you whispered, "I don't know why you're asking me to do this, Lord, but I'll do it anyway." I saw the tears fall as you said yes to paths that scared you. I saw how you trusted me when logic said it was foolish. And I say to you now, those sacrifices were not in vain. Your obedience built a bridge for my blessings to reach you. Your faithfulness in the quiet places is calling forth miracles in the open. Heaven measures faithfulness not by success, but by obedience. You have been faithful with little, and now I will make you ruler over much. You have been faithful in hidden places, and now I will reveal you in appointed ones. You have been faithful when no one clapped for you, and now I will honor you in front of those who doubted you. You obeyed when you could have compromised, and that obedience has rewritten your story. You see, I never needed perfect performance, I needed a willing heart. And you gave me that. Every time you obeyed, you revealed that your heart belongs to me. And now I will reward what no one else saw. Every yes you gave in pain has become a seed that heaven is watering with abundance. Every act of faith you made in secret will soon bear visible fruit. So stand firm, my beloved. You have passed the test of obedience. The hardest part is behind you. You have proven your faith, your loyalty, your love. You've shown me that you'll follow not just when it's easy, but when it costs you everything. And because of that, the windows of heaven are opening. The promises that were once delayed are being released. The blessings you've been waiting for are already on their way. You obeyed when no one else understood. You stayed when it hurt. You trusted when you couldn't see me. And now heaven calls you faithful. Your obedience has moved eternity, and now eternity will move for you. My child, you thought the breaking would destroy you, but it was birthing you. You didn't fall apart, you were being remade. What you called your ending was actually my beginning. I saw the moment you thought everything was lost. When you cried out, "Lord, I can't take any more," and I whispered, "Yes, you can, because I'm still with you." You didn't know it, but in your breaking, heaven was working. While you were falling to your knees, I was lifting your spirit higher. While you were crying out of pain, I was creating purpose. What looked like collapse was construction. What looked like chaos was calling. You see, my beloved, there are moments when life presses so hard that your soul feels like it's shattering. But in that breaking, I was shaping you. I was molding you into the image of strength I saw in you before the world even began. You thought the fire was meant to consume you, but it was meant to crown you. You were not breaking down, you were breaking open. I needed to let certain things fall apart so that what was true, what was pure, what was divine could finally come forth. You asked me why I allowed the pain. You asked why I didn't stop the loss, why I didn't intervene sooner. I heard those cries, and I held them close. I didn't ignore your pain, I redeemed it. Every tear became a tool in my hands. Every heartbreak became holy ground. Every wound became a doorway for my presence to enter more deeply into your life. I was not punishing you, I was preparing you. I was stripping away everything that couldn't stand in the light of where I'm taking you. There were moments you felt completely undone, as if your soul had been scattered to pieces. But I never lost a single fragment of who you are. I gathered every piece in my hands and began to rebuild you stronger, wiser, softer, more compassionate. The breaking wasn't to end you, it was to expand you. I was increasing your capacity to love, to trust, to lead, to endure. You prayed for more of me, and I answered, but to fill you, I first had to empty you. The breaking made room for glory. I know the nights when you sat in silence, wondering if I had left you. You looked around and saw nothing moving, nothing changing, and you thought, maybe he's done with me. But my silence was not distance, it was trust. When a teacher gives a test, they don't speak, not because they've abandoned the student, but because they know the student already carries what's needed to pass. I silenced with a sound of confidence. I trusted what I had placed inside you. I knew your faith was real, even when you doubted yourself. You were convinced the fire was destroying you, but it was refining you. Fire only burns what doesn't belong. It cannot destroy gold, it can only reveal its shine. You were gold all along, but it took the fire to show it. You saw ashes, I saw glory. You saw loss, I saw strength. You saw weakness, I saw wisdom. Everything the enemy meant for evil, I turned for good, even when you couldn't see it yet. Do you remember the moment you felt like you couldn't breathe from the weight of it all? The betrayal, the heartbreak, the unanswered questions, it felt unbearable. You whispered, God, I can't handle this. And I said, you don't have to handle it alone. Every time you thought you were at your breaking point, I was standing beside you, holding you together. You didn't see it, but my hands were beneath your heart, catching every fragment as it fell. You didn't crumble into nothing, you fell into me. And that's where the transformation began. You thought the storm came to destroy you, but it came to wash away what you no longer needed. The winds weren't against you, they were carrying away the weight you weren't meant to hold anymore. I let the storm rage, not because I wanted to see you hurt, but because I wanted to see you free. You prayed for deliverance, and deliverance came through breaking. You asked for peace, and peace was born in surrender. You wanted resurrection, but resurrection only comes after something dies. You see, my beloved, I allow breaking because it's the doorway to becoming. Without it, pride would stay where humility needs to live. Without it, fear would rule where faith needs to reign. Without it, the shell of what was would never open to release what is. Every time you said, why me? I was saying, because I trust you. I knew you could carry this, even when you didn't. I knew that from your breaking, countless others would find healing. You didn't know it, but your story was becoming a lifeline for others still trapped in their storms. You thought your weakness disqualified you, but it qualified you. The moments you felt too fragile, too weary, too broken were the very moments my strength was made perfect in you. You thought you were losing faith, but faith isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing me in the middle of it. And you did. Every time you whispered, Lord, I still trust you, you declared victory louder than any shout could. Every tear that fell in surrender became a seed of triumph. Every sigh that escaped your chest became a song in heaven. You were breaking, yes, but you were also birthing something holy. I know the breaking made you question everything. You wondered if your prayers were enough, if your faith mattered, if you were still in my plan. You asked, why is this happening to me? And I whispered, because I'm building something through you. You see, my greatest works often come from shattered vessels. The cracks allow my light to shine through. Without the breaking, you would have been whole but hollow. Now, you are broken but filled with grace, with compassion, with power. Type, my foundation is Christ alone if He's the rock you build on, and share this video.